Good evening, everyone. It's a little after 7 o'clock, so in deference to everyone's time, we're going to get started. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carolyn McCreary. I'm the Township Manager for Montgomery Township, and sitting next to me is Chief Bill Wiegman. He has been Fire Chief here since 2020, and he has been with the volunteers since 2006. See, I remember. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm a little off my game. The last two town hall meetings we did, I was able to walk around and move around the crowd, but I have to stay seated with the microphone, so I'll do my best to adapt and overcome. Last November, I presented the Board of Supervisors with a report and recommendations for the expansion of our fire department. Our fire department is a combination fire department with career and volunteer members. We've always been a combination department since we started in 2002. And like Carolyn said, I've been here since 2006. Vinay's been here a little bit longer. Steve's an original member. Thank you for being here. And we've seen a lot of changes over those 20 some years. The most significant change that we've seen is a decrease in the number of volunteers that are responding to calls. And that decrease is not just something that is impacting Montgomery Township. It's impacting the entire United States American Fire Service, but it's having more of a significant impact now in Montgomery Township based on where we are demographically and where we are and what we want our township to be. In the 70s, there were 360,000 firefighters in the United States. As of now, there's only 37,000, right? So it's a drastic drop. And we have felt that in Montgomery Township. We have tried numerous initiatives to get volunteers out. We have a night stipend program that's been around for 20 years and really came about to make sure we had crews respond to Montgomery Mall. Because at one point we were getting automatic fire alarms overnight there every night, but through code enforcement we fixed that. And our stipend program has been successful. However, even our stipend program now is getting hard to fill shifts. We do a really good job at recruiting young volunteers. Rachel's here. She's in charge of our Explorers program, which are for kids from 14 to 21. We have junior firefighters, but then what we've seen happen is that we get young firefighters in, and then they can't afford to live in Montgomery Township. They can't afford to buy their first home in Montgomery Township. So we train them, we get them their Fire One, and off they go to Upper Bucks or Upper Montgomery County, somewhere that they can afford to live. We don't have any legacy firefighters. We don't have anyone whose their dad was a firefighter and now their son's a firefighter. I desperately tried to get my son to join the fire department, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. I started in the fire service because my dad was a police officer And while he was working, the firehouse caught fire, and he drove the fire trucks out of the firehouse when it was burning down, and they made him an honorary member. And that's when I started coming around the firehouse. My grandfather drove an ambulance. He actually died driving an ambulance for Ron Hirsch. He was transporting a patient, had a heart attack, and died on the side of Route 1. So I have that family legacy, and I can't even keep it going with my son. He wants to play sports and hang out with his friends, and doesn't want to go down the same road as me. And that's okay. That's fine. That's his choice. And we always want better for our kids. The firefighters that we do get, they come from other municipalities. They move up, and the problem that we're seeing now is that if it's a scheduled shift or it's a scheduled event, they come. But on the weekends, when the pager goes off, people like to enjoy their weekends, that work-life balance. And we don't have in Montgomery Township where people are dropping everything they're doing to get on the fire truck. And compound that with the traffic in town, it takes forever to get to the firehouse. Right now, the way our system is set up is that the county notifies us through a paging system, and the volunteers, if they're available, come to the firehouse. And as you know, trying to get to 309 and Stump at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is pretty difficult. Especially, we had a car fire outside of Battalion 1 one morning, and because of the way the traffic was stopped, the engine from our Battalion 2 firehouse across from Pinecrest got to Battalion 1 faster than the responders from going to Battalion 1 because the traffic was so screwed up they couldn't get through to get the fire truck out. So we are faced with a need. We're faced that we're not providing the service that I think we should provide. And because of that, I asked if I could give a proposal to the township about how we can improve our service delivery. When we're looking at why this matters, it's response times that matters. And what we've seen over the last 3 years is that our response time during volunteer hours is dramatically different than our response time during our career staff hours. And I have to say, it's has nothing to do with the volunteers that we have. They are great people. I was a volunteer here from 2006 to 2020 until the board took a chance on hiring me, and I'm grateful that they did. Um, we have great volunteers. We have a culture that is dedicated to training. We have people who give up so much time at this firehouse. They do their stipend shifts. They come on Monday nights for training. They help with all the other events. It's just hard for them to drop everything they're doing and respond, especially when you're running 900 fire calls a year. That's a lot to ask somebody to volunteer their time. The initial training takes about 200 hours to become a volunteer firefighter in Montgomery Township. The state does not have a requirement to be a volunteer firefighter, but we have a requirement in our township, in the fire department, I should say, that requires everybody to have the basic level of training, which is about 220 hours. And then we have requirements for ongoing training. So mostly you need to be at the firehouse on Monday nights to participate in training and drills. So when we look at our response times for our volunteers right now, we're not doing good. We're not doing well. On Sundays, we're looking at a 10-minute response time. On Mondays, a 10-minute and 39-second response time. On Tuesdays, 11-minute response time. Wednesdays, 8 minutes and 35 seconds. I can attribute that to Bob Grummeyer. That's his stipend crew, and they usually get out the door pretty quick and hang out before stipend gets there. So I can assign good times to good people because I manage our department based on people. And I know what shifts are gonna produce better times. Thursday, we're at 9.5 minutes. Friday, we're at 8 minutes and 42 seconds. And Saturday, we're at 10 minutes and 46 seconds. So NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Agency, which is best practices. There's no set law that we have to follow, but best practices says that for a structure fire, we're supposed to be at your house in a municipality like Montgomery Township within 9 minutes with 15 people. But that aside, we're looking at a difference between our career staff and our volunteers of our career staff average getting on scene in 4.5 minutes and our volunteers getting on scene in 10 minutes. And that difference is significant when we know that fire doubles in size every 30 seconds, that time to flashover is as little as 4 minutes. Time to collapse in lightweight truss buildings, which all the buildings in Montgomery Township are, that wood frame truss, is anywhere in 12 to 18 to 20 minutes. So the longer it takes us to get there, not only are we decreasing your survivability, but we're also putting our firefighters in more danger because the conditions that they're facing are going to be worse. So I put a proposal together, um, which I think is my proposal. And, I work for the township and I work for the board. So whatever they decide as to what the best course of action is, of course, that's what we're going to do. But I was asked to put what I thought was the best proposal for Montgomery Township. I will say that we have tried everything to keep and get volunteers. We currently have a SAFER grant for pay for call, pay for training. We have our stipend program that we've increased from 15. We filled that we and Vinay could probably tell you this, but we filled the schedule better when we paid $15 a shift. Now we pay $50 a shift, and we have a hard time filling the schedule because people don't do it for the money. Free uniforms, free training, free gear. Our firehouses are beautiful. We have the best equipment. The way that mostly comes from the Relief Association. The fire department manages really three funding streams: township, tax revenue, Relief Association, which is funded by the foreign fire tax that supports our operations, and then the fundraising of the FDMT. But we have done our very best to recruit volunteers. And again, we get lots of young volunteers, but they move on because they can't afford to live in town. And just looking at, I think I told you our average age of an active firefighter in Montgomery Township is 54 years old. When I'm looking at our officers right now, our lieutenant lives in Chalfont. Our health and safety officer lives in North Wales. Our incident safety officer lives in Hilltown. We have a captain that lives in Lansdale. Vinay lives in Montgomery. We have a lieutenant that lives in Horsham. We have a battalion chief that lives in Hilltown. Our assistant chief lives in Montgomery. And of course, I live in Montgomery. Right now, activity fire department based, we only have 2 active members. And I don't want to sound like I'm skewing the data because I would absolutely never skew the data. I'm only presenting the facts. Our activity is a little all over the place because our life members have different activity levels than our regular members do. But right now, our active members, we have 73 years old and 69 years old. Our active range of members who live in town, their average age is 53 years old. So we're putting people who are very quite seasoned on the fire trucks to do that job, right? So we have really good volunteers. We have very high standards, and they meet the standards. The career staff, they used to say that the volunteers weren't trained as well as the career staff were, and that's not the truth anymore. We have the same standards of training for both our career and our volunteer members. We have great volunteers. We just have tried to do everything we can to recruit and retain volunteers. We've come up with several initiatives. We're continuing to work with the school district. And what we're finding is people value their time over whatever money you're going to throw at them. On the weekend, they don't want to come to the fire call because they want to be home with their family or doing other things they want to enjoy. And we know that volunteerism in the United States has decreased since World War II. I mean, there's a book, Bowling Alone, that talks about their ties to their community are not churches or the volunteer fire department where they went and met their neighbors. Now it's social media, and you don't even have to know who your neighbor is to get along. So um, this is a safety standard. This is a survivability approach, but the approach I put together, I think, is the best approach for Montgomery Township, and it is compliant with NFPA for our best practices. And those best practices would be that a fire truck shows up at your house before 9 minutes with 15 people on a fire scene. I'm not asking for 15 people on a shift, right? The proposal I put together asked for 6 firefighters on a platoon, a battalion chief, a captain, and 4 firefighters. Um, when I took over in 2020, we needed to change the culture, and we did that as a group, as a team. And then before I could come to the board and say, I think we should expand the career side of our fire department, I needed to make sure that we were providing the best service we could from the career side, and we have. This is the first year ever that every business in Montgomery Township will be visited for a fire inspection. That we've never done that before, 20 some years. Captain Backlund has taken that on to make sure that we can get to every business to make sure they're safe for the people who visit and the people who work there. We have a QRS program now, excuse me, where we're helping our EMS partners. We help with drone. We do community risk reduction activities. We do pre-planning. We're delivering all types of services. And I just wanted to make sure that before I went and asked for, I need a, Vinay, can you give me a water? I'm fighting a sinus infection. It's my wife. Thank you. Thank you, Mandy. Before I came and gave a proposal about how we should increase staffing, I wanted to make sure that the product that we were providing was what I thought was the best possible product. And that's what I think we have now between our career and volunteer people. The reason I wanted 6 on a shift is because one person would be a battalion chief, command and control. We see in line of duty deaths. One of the reasons that firefighters die in fires is lack of command, lack of control, lack of communications, lack of accountability. So having a chief on shift will guarantee that there's always an incident commander. Obviously, a captain for crew resource integrity and management, and then our 4 firefighters. Why did I choose 4? Why did I choose an overall shift of 6? Well, we currently function with 5 firefighters on during the day, and it's worked very well for us. But also NFPA 1710 says that if you respond to industrial areas, that you should have between 4 and 6 firefighters on a truck. So I picked 5 because it's been working for us for the last couple of years, and it follows within NFPA guidelines. They would work a schedule of 24/72. Why did I pick 24/72? I just didn't pick it out of the air. I picked that schedule because right now, all the research shows that that schedule is best for firefighter well-being and mental health, and provides firefighters with enough relaxation after their 24-hour shift. Why don't firefighters work 12-hour shifts like the police department? Well, we don't patrol during the night. We don't do inspections at night, right? So I didn't want to bring in a shift from 7 at night till 7 in the morning where they basically got paid to sleep, right? Because I can't have them out there in the fire truck doing patrols, right? So 24-hour shift was which is what I thought was best, so that they could work all day, train at night with the volunteers, and then we're not losing an overnight shift, the 12-hour shift to sleeping. So that was the whole reason for the 4 platoons that work the 24/72s. Again, I based all of these recommendations off best practices and NFPA guidelines. And I understand that it's going to take a tax increase to make this happen. I live in town. It's going to affect me too. I think the one thing I'm most proud of at our fire department is we do run very lean. That we have relief that helps us with purchasing, but as a fire department, we're not out there spending. We've done our best. We charge for our fire inspections, but they're cost neutral. And I do understand that the school district and other entities charge more in taxes than the township, and they always raise them. But I thought that it was important to get out and be transparent with the statistics and the figures so that you understood that we're not just raising taxes to raise taxes, and that there was a method behind my madness, right? And that you're going to get, and I'm guaranteeing you're going to get a great service delivery, and that we're going to be at your house in 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, anything better than the 10 minutes and 46 seconds on a Saturday and Sunday that we're at now. Because when something happens, you want the fire company to be there. And again, I live in town, so I want the best service for all of you. We're all in the same community. We have the opportunity here to set the benchmark what suburban fire departments in our region should be like. There's only a couple other municipalities demographically they're similar to us that are going combination fire: Upper Providence, Northampton. We see Upper Moreland. There was some talk about the building. Yes, we are doing a feasibility study, but I don't need any changes to the building to make this happen. To be honest, uh, when this first started, I was looking the Office of State Fire Commissioner has $100,000 grant every year for municipal fire stations. And I was going to apply for that grant to just make some changes at Battalion 1 to make the bunk room a little bit more bigger. But then it was decided that we should go forward with a feasibility study to see if that's, if any more significant changes need to be made to the building. But we're already operating. We're already having 5 people sleep over at the firehouse every night. So we can continue to do that. We've been doing that for 20 years. So the plan that I developed was, short term, but also long term, and looking at the long term needs of our department. I don't believe that we'll need to make another significant increase to the fire department in the next 20 to 30 years, staffing wise, unless we regionalize. Regionalization would be great, but I don't think we have any municipal partners in that regionalization. Um, we are mostly surrounded by volunteer fire companies, with the exception of Horsham and Warrington during the day. Um, so I'm here to explain if you answer any questions you have, talk you through what I was thinking, and again, just to be here to be transparent. Thank you.
Can you talk about the trucks a little bit?
Sure.
Because there's been statements that we need more equipment, more trucks.
Yeah, we have 2 trucks on order. They're coming in hopefully November. They were paid for already. They're replacing 2 of our oldest trucks in the fleet. And it was really a cool thing. Am I allowed to use cool? It was a really cool thing. When I told the volunteers that I was gonna make a proposal to the board of supervisors, um, that we were gonna change the makeup and the culture of our department to go 24/7 career, the volunteers asked, "Well, what does that mean for us?" And I really thought that I said, I don't know. You're getting the new engine down at Battalion 2. You still have a place here. Training's going to be incorporated into the career staff schedule. We still need volunteers. You just don't have to come out to all the fire alarms or get up at 3 o'clock in the morning or run 8 calls in a day. We know that we're going to get a truck on the street, and you're going to supplement that truck. And the volunteers said, "Well, we want the tower ladder at Battalion 2. We want to be the truck company." Because most of our volunteers run out of our Battalion 2 firehouse, which is down off of Doylestown Road, across from Pinecrest. We have very limited firefighters that come out of our Battalion 1 firehouse. Most of those people live in the orchards or in the ridings. But again, it's really, really hard to get to Battalion 1 quickly with traffic. So I said, well, you guys can have the tower right down at Battalion 2. It's the newest truck, is $1.4 million. But you have to all get your National Pro Board aerial certification to have it down there, thinking that they weren't going to get it. And they proved me wrong, and they went out and got it. So that's good. But so when they ask in firefighting, what's our role? Well, right now they're our ladder company. Right, but we're a combination department. We're always going to be a combination department. We're always going to welcome volunteers. We're not getting rid of any of our volunteers. We're taking less of the burden off of them while guaranteeing that a truck makes it to your house in a reasonable time and meets expectations and standards. I think you might see that we'll get more volunteers because they know the truck's going to get out and they're going to have a driver. And a lot of municipalities, when they hire, they need people who have worked in a combination fire system. Our Explorer program is doing great. We've had young kids who have transferred or moved up, crossed over from explorers to junior firefighters. So there's no intentions of getting rid of the volunteers. Not no intention at all. So the new engine and the new squad, which will be delivered in November, will be going to Battalion 1, and the new tower and the old squad 2016, will be going to the Doylestown Road Firehouse. We replace fire trucks, squads. They're fire trucks that are capable of lightweight rescue about every 15 years. And we replace our tower ladder every 20 to 25 years. That's another thing that has changed drastically. When I started in the fire service in 1996, it was like $300,000 for an engine. Now it's like $2 million for a fire truck. We've seen a lot of those increases after COVID. Um, there's actually a congressional uh, investigation into fire truck gouging and why fire trucks are so much money. So that'll be interesting to see the results of that.
First of all, I want to say we live in the Chaplain. Would you mind going to the microphone, please? Just because this is being recorded and it's being live streamed as well. Thank you.
Does this come off or is it?
You can put there you go.
Or do I have to grow? I want to congratulate you guys for what you do. I think you do a wonderful job. We live in the Chamonix Falls and we had a fire. It was devastating. We lost our clubhouse and we live right off the parking lot. And if the wind had been blowing and you guys weren't there when you were, we would have lost our home and our cars and 3 other homes as well. So we're forever grateful to you. And if we have to increase the taxes, I think that it's really well spent. This is money put into the right place. It's not like you're building buildings that you don't need and having parties and that. This is something that we really do need in this township. So I just want to tell you that you have our support. And I also wanted to ask, if you bring in these people, will there be some kind of a stipulation that they need to stay in the township? Or can they move outside of the township and still be employed here?
Right now, we have no residency restrictions for any township employees that I'm aware of.
Because I know in Philadelphia, I don't know if they still do it, but in Philadelphia they did. You
Yeah,
had to be a resident.
they've been a little bit more lenient on that. I think you have to live for like 5 years or something before you can move out. But I don't think at this point we're looking at any type of residence restriction.
So do you think that the retention will be any better here?
For the volunteers,
No,
For
for
career,
career,
yeah.
career.
I think for career, I think number one, the township did a great job with our union on a fair contract. The 4-year contract, I think everybody did a great job on, and really shows that the township is committed to fire safety.
Mhm.
And I think that's one thing that makes us an attractive employer. I think our culture makes us a very attractive to employees. And I think if we've got 24/72s, I think that schedule would make us very attractive.
But it doesn't make the housing any more affordable. So that can still be
Yeah,
a little crux.
So for a firefighter who's starting out, they likely couldn't afford to live in Montgomery Township. So if we put a residency requirement in for any of our employees, we're going to have people who are going to say, I can't get a job here because I can't afford to live in Montgomery Township. There, what used to be considered affordable, the modest rancher, Cape Cod, it's not anymore. And we're very cognizant of that. The volunteers, that's where we take our biggest hit because they move out of mom and dad's house. They finish, like we get these young firefighters, they go away to school. So while they're at school, obviously they're not serving here. But when they come home in the summers, that's great. They're available again when they want to make that first move, even an apartment now. The apartments that were around when I was younger, and you lived maybe over a garage or over a storefront, the back of someone's home that had been converted, they don't exist now. Now
No.
they're like the Luxor apartments on Stump
Luxury.
Road, which, everybody wants all the amenities in one place. It comes with a very big price.
Mhm.
And we are built out. So that also, in addition to not being able to create more housing, the last housing we put in of substance was behind the Wawa, the townhomes that just went in. So there's about 32 or 36 townhomes. When they came in and made their presentation to the board asked them, what is going to be the price point? And they said probably low to mid fours. Well, they went high fours and into the fives for townhomes that are behind the Wawa that overlook 309. it's just not sustainable. And it's starting to affect our new police officers that we're looking for. And then certainly with our volunteer firefighters and our career firefighters. The ones we have they're a wonderful group. They live in varied places, but because they're here during the day, they come in there and they hit the ground running, ready to work. And I would imagine the same thing would happen if we convert to the 24/72. And along those lines, I'm because obviously finances are a big deal. I do not take this lightly. I don't live in Montgomery Township, but I live in a community that has a fire tax. My school taxes go up every year. My county taxes go up. County taxes. I use the library sometimes. I go to county parks. I'm fortunate that I don't need to make use of a lot of the county social services that they offer, but I still pay taxes. School
Right.
taxes, we pay them through our real estate taxes. We're committed to public education in the Commonwealth. That's how we pay for our school taxes. We don't get a break if we send our kids to private or parochial schools. We don't get a break when our kids are no longer in school or if we chose not to have children. And so for this township has committed to public safety, to public works, to its parks, all the things that matter to residents. As a township of the second class, we are required to provide emergency services. It does not tell us how to do it. So we're very fortunate. VMSC is on our campus. And so they have a truck very nearby. And I get a report every month that shows how many calls they did in Montgomery Township and what type of calls. Fire is no different. Just like we don't rely on state police or a neighboring municipality, we wanted our own fire department. It was here when Bill got here. Things weren't things very modest. Things were not great. There was a real clash between the volunteers and career. People were posting things that made it sound like if you were a volunteer firefighter, somehow you were lacking. But the training is the same. And I remember being at a conference when Governor Rendell was in office. So it's Governor Shapiro, Governor Wolf had 2 terms, and Governor Rendell. So that's quite a while ago. And he started the conversation with us about you need to have this on your radar. Volunteer firefighters are dwindling dramatically in the Commonwealth. The state fire commissioner was there, and just like our culture and our residents in the whole Commonwealth are aging, well, that also affects our fire services. We don't necessarily retain young people even in the area. They go away to school, and a lot of times they don't come back. They like the area where they went to school and they stay there. So it's sort of like the perfect storm. And Bill has been studying this since he got here. He's been watching, and to say, well, we have really great volunteer firefighters, we do, and we have neighboring communities that have volunteer firefighters, but they're seeing the same struggles. They just might not have come out yet. And once again, Montgomery's taking the lead on this. When we thought EMS was a concern, we took the lead and talked to the other municipalities and said, we're concerned that we're not able to hold on to paramedics and EMTs, and we have 125,000 people in the North Penn region who rely on this. We need to make sure we do better. And as a result, we did. So as far as the taxes, we looked at what it would cost. There are certain costs that are already built into Bill's operations, but obviously 19 people is a big lift. So the board asked me to do a study of just varying neighborhoods in the township and to put it together a spreadsheet and show what the current real estate taxes they're paying are, and then what they would pay under this one. And I can give you a couple examples. And if you want to know specifically your street, you're welcome to call my office, and I have a report, and I can look up your street address and tell you what it's going to be. So in Neshaminy Falls, we had a home on Dogwood Drive. They are currently paying $145.27 to the township, $278.77 to the county, $1,530.06 to the school district. So of their whole bill, the smallest portion is the township. And I would argue that we do the most and we have the most efficiency and we give you back the most. So a bill that's $145 under this proposal would go to $214, which is $5.76 a month
Yeah.
additional.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we have there's a home on Gwynmont Drive. They are currently paying $699 to the township. Under this proposal, their taxes would go to $1,031, which is $27 more a month. And again, I'm not being cavalier about this. I know everything has gone up. it has gone up for the township too. So I get it. You know, I buy groceries like everybody else and I cringe. I look at my 2 bags and I'm like, I spent how much? And I look at my bag and I think,
No, I think
why do
it's
they seem
money
so
well
light?
spent.
So
Yeah,
we didn't take this lightly when we did it.
right.
But we honestly felt transparency. We're telling people it's
Yeah.
going to fire. It's not
Mhm.
going to balance our budget. It's not going into, you know, a black hole that you're never going to, it's, when we have to raise taxes, we tell people why. And we just felt like this was an opportunity. And I know some people were saying that we didn't get the word out enough. And I looked at our statistics with our public information officer. We have a web page, a township web page. There's a button on it that says fire, proposed fire expansion. As of Monday night, it had 2,800 views.
Yeah.
Um, Bill and I did a podcast. It's had been listened to 690 times. The Board of Supervisors, their meetings are streamed live and they're also recorded. Their June 23rd meeting, where we spent over 2 hours discussing this, has had 622 views. And when they discussed it again in July, it's had 217 views. We are doing the best we can to get the information out. We don't take this lightly. I have an article here from the Philly Burbs. There was a Bucks County article in December of 2024 pointing to the reduction in firefighters, and that, you know, somebody who joined a fire department because his neighbor's home caught on fire, 5 o'clock in the morning, he wakes up to a glow in his window and his room is 80 degrees and it's 45 degrees outside. And it's because his neighbor's house is on fire. 3 hours later, it was contained. There were 3 injuries and he joined the volunteer fire company in his community. He was the first person under the age of 25 to serve there. Like, that's just not, we just can't keep doing that.
Mhm.
If we move to this model, it will truly be a combination department and we will have our firefighting will be augmented by the volunteers. We will not have to solely depend on them for nights and weekends.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And I think it's also important to note that, and if you want to sit down, I know you've been standing there a long time. I think it's also important to note that we're not just the fire department, that's the title, but we're an all hazards agency. We're the people you call when you smell something weird, when your house makes a weird noise, when you hear something funny, right? Like, you call the fire department. We're the firefighters, we're the plumbers, we're the electricians. We come out, and I wanted to make sure that before I asked people to pay for our service, that our service was the very best, and we were prepared to respond in an all hazards environment, and we are. I wanted to make sure that our culture was right. So if we brought in 19 people or whatever plan is chosen by the board, that we have a good culture for that. And you're right, onboarding is, when I gave the board of supervisors my report in November, I said it was going to be about $500,000 to onboard firefighters we need at one-time cost, to get them the gear and uniforms, and it'll probably be less than that, but I went for what I thought was going to be the most cost to the taxpayer. Um, but again, you're not just paying for fire. We've made significant changes in how we operate. We are there for EMS calls, sometimes even beating our EMS agencies into the scene. So when seconds count, I want the fire department to show up. I want them to be there. Yes.
See if I can get this right here. The first question, of course, increased taxes are important to everybody. And I doubt if you can answer my question, but my question is, would there be any offset in reduced fire premiums? And I know taxes, we were dealing with one organization, and when we're probably dealing with 150 insurance companies. But is there any experience with other townships, whatever, that after they change from a volunteer to a combination department,
So
insurance premiums go down?
I think you have to speak to your individual insurance companies,
Which
for
is
that.
the obvious answer, but
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that when I got here, we were an ISO rating class 4. Now we're an ISO rating class 2. We're going to strive to be a class 1. I don't know if we'll make it to ever be a class 1, but we are class 2. Some departments are very proud of that. They put it on the side of their trucks, like Norristown.
Mm.
But again, that is another thing that if you called your insurance company and say, I'm this far from a fire hydrant. We have guaranteed staffing, but it's insurance company based.
Okay, well, I just wondered, since you went to all the trouble to talk or to look up, calculate increased taxes, if part of the conversation in general might be
I
at
can
least have suggest that people call their insurance agents.
I can look that up and see if there's an average savings for other municipalities.
Well, I think even just if we put the word out on the webpage to say, we believe this may result in a reduced fire insurance premium, but you'd have to check with your insurance company.
Secondly, do you have, I guess, a vision of the hiring pool for the new 19 firefighters? Like, some of them probably not 55-year-old volunteers, but if you have a 25 or 30-year-old volunteer who's fully trained, might that be a consideration?
Yes, yes, I would absolutely would love to hire our volunteers and our current part-timers before anybody from the outside.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And would we, the township, be able to pay them commensurately with whatever their current job is paying?
Well, their salaries are determined under the collective bargaining agreement, so there's no room to negotiate salaries with
Not
individual
saying
employees.
negotiate, but if,
They have to make
I mean, yes, we would love to hire them. They're trained, they know the township, et cetera, et cetera. But could they afford to become a full-time firefighter as opposed to continuing as a volunteer, but making their living elsewhere?
So we believe that if they want to be a firefighter, we're competitive. Our benefits, our wages are competitive, and they would want to be here. If they're working, say, at a pharmaceutical company and they're making really good money and they have a lot of overtime, I can't compete with that. But I would say people who are looking to be a firefighter and maybe in the past just didn't do it because of the pay, this new contract puts them where they need to be to have not just a living wage, but really a thriving wage.
They're a competitive situation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And while the culture doesn't pay their bills, I don't want firefighters who are just coming here for a paycheck. I don't want any township employee
no.
like that. I want people who are committed. I refer to the staff here as my family for a reason, because we look out for each other. We all share the same desire to serve our community here. And that's the kind of employees we want, no matter what role they have, whether they're forward facing like fire and police, or they're behind the scenes answering the phone or being at the lobby when you come in the building.
Yeah. You'd have to be crazy to want to be a firefighter just for the job, And you mentioned Battalion 2, which is 10 times closer to us than Battalion 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said that is staffed normally, or?
So the current makeup of the stipend schedule is split between the battalions. So Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Friday nights, Battalion 2 is staffed, and then the rest of the week is Battalion 1. The career staff at this point, since it would only be one crew, would still function out of Battalion 1. Just because Battalion 1 is easier to get anywhere in town than Battalion 2 is, because as you know, going through 5 points is a little hectic to say the least.
Especially lately.
Yeah, especially lately.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Do you want to touch on the phasing? Can I introduce that? Why you?
Sure.
Okay. So just if you don't, so one of the things that had been suggested during discussions with the board was the idea of phasing this. Could we take 19 divided by 3 and hire some each year? And there is on the website, Chief Wiegman's thoughts about phasing. But since you all took the time to come here, I wanted him to be able to share his thoughts about, well, one, we have a collective bargaining agreement. For those of you who don't know, I can't just change things arbitrarily. I would have to reopen that contract. And the union has indicated that they support Chief Wiegman's proposal. They would reopen the contract, and instead of working their 4 10-hour days, they would reopen it to be 24 on, 72 off, and we could do that. However, Chief Wiegman believes that if we phase it, we wouldn't be able to do 2472. We would have to do an alternative, and they have indicated they would not be amenable to opening the contract.
I mean, again, no problem. I will do whatever the board tells me to do. Absolutely. I was just asked for my opinion, and my opinion is that that we should just do it all at once and not phase it. And the reason I believe that is because if we were to phase it, we at 24-hour staffing is the need. That's the need. So we would have to change the schedule for the first year to be 24/48s. And that Norristown works at, I think Upper Moreland works at. So that is the schedule that people work. It would require mandatory overtime, which is just part of that schedule, or a negotiation with the union for the hourly rate to take in the fact that they'll be working more than a 40-hour work week. So if you were a young person, the first year you would come to work, next year, well, even for the current staff we have now, they would switch from working 410s to going to 24/48s. And that would put minimum staffing on the truck, right? That would put 4 people on a fire truck. We always want to keep 4 people on a fire truck. That's the minimum staffing we need. So in order, if the reason I love our place is because the board and Carolyn supports the holistic approach to employee management. Training is a big part. If people want to go to training, we send them to training. If they need to take time off, they get to take time off. Whatever is said in the union contract. But we are a holistic organization, and when we look at if we take a staff management plan that requires us functioning at the minimum, like people won't be able to go to training, right? Because we're going to have to keep 4 on that truck. We're going to have to find people to work that shift, and then you're requiring us to start over once a year for 3 years. So we'll have to test again. We'll have to interview again. We'll have to hire again. Then we'll have to switch up platoons again. So for me, as an administrator, it would be easier administratively just to bring all 19 at once, indoctrinate them into the culture at once, put them at the platoon, and start your service delivery model and go. I feel as though that if we phase it, we would have to restart, and it would be a lot of barriers and obstacles to overcome just to get there. And if we know that's what our goal is, and we know that our goal is based in best practices and standards, then I would say just move toward the goal, right? I was asked to put together my plan, what I think is the optimal plan for the township, and that's what I did. Ultimately, it's up to the board. Says Bill yes, Bill no, or Bill, you're going to do it this way, and that's the way I'm going to do it. I love working here, so I'm going to do what I'm told, right? But that's why I didn't want to phase it, because I didn't want to have to restart. I didn't want to lose people because they don't want to work that 24/48s. There's a lot of fire departments that are hiring again or transitioning the way we're transitioning. So I don't know year 2 if we'll have the same applicant pool that we had in year 1. So to me, and I know phasing helps the taxpayer, right? Because then your tax is cut in thirds. But the way I feel is just do the one-time tax increase and do what you need to do to make it the most effective, best department there is. Steve?
Okay, my name's Steve Splendida. You may not know me. I'm a life member of FDMT.
Thank you.
I'm also a charter member. All right, the charter member means that I was there when it is at its inception. Reason why I bring that up is there's only 5 of us left, charter members, really. And I question, why is that? Okay, and Bill spoke about the culture. Well, the culture changed when we did that, when we started the fire company. All right, Bill's a friend. I trust him. His predecessors weren't all that great. Okay, your first 2 directors that this township hired drove a wedge between the career staff and the volunteer staff. Okay, and I think it has a lot to do with why you don't have as many volunteers. Now he's left with a decision to make because the volunteers aren't here. Okay, so I think that's a big thing, and I blame the township for that. So the question is, you gentlemen, they're worried about their taxes. This township doesn't have an EMS tax. Okay, I pay $1 a paycheck at Warminster. All right, it paid $60 a year in Tredyffrin Township when I worked out there for an EMS tax. Okay, an EMS tax is levied against everybody who works in the township, not who lives in the township. Okay, so maybe the businesses in this township be paying their fair share, and maybe that would offset.
We actually do. It's referred to as a local services tax. And it's for anybody, who works in the township. It's $52 a year.
Okay, so that's the EMS tax.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's all I got. I support you, Bill.
Thanks, Steve.
Hello, my name's Homer Elizardo. I live over in Montgomery Crossing. Thanks for the statistics. I was probably one of your viewers for the 2 township halls and the podcast. Enjoyed the podcast. It was actually pretty good. I'm trying to understand. I don't think the question is whether or not you're in favor of expanding the fire department. We're in the 21st century. The township's grown. We've been here 25 years. We've seen it grow. It's a reality. I mean, something has to change. I think the issue that the board really has to do is figure out a way that everybody can live with it. And 19 people is a lot to suddenly throw on. The numbers that I think I heard in the presentation was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million. When I take $3 million and divide it by the 19 firefighters, that's $157,000 a year in salary. Is that what we're looking at paying people?
No, that's wages and benefits, and that's all benefits. So that's health insurance, that's dental insurance, that's workers' comp premium, that's life insurance, it's accidental death and dismemberment insurance. It's everything that we would have to pay. The starting salary for a firefighter next year, if this goes through, would be $82,000.
So $70,000 in benefits. I mean,
Well, it's not equal across because there's going to be,
you have a battalion chief, and
right, and there's going to be captains, and there's also people who are firefighter 3 versus firefighter 1.
I'm just trying. I think that's where you need to really provide some transparency.
We can put those spreadsheets on the website. I thought they were, but we can certainly add those.
Because I'm sitting here, I worked in the process chemical industry, and typically what we use as a wage for our workers and the indirect costs were 2%. You're telling me a firefighter is making 80,000 and potentially 70,000 of that is going to be benefits? That's where I need to understand that whole situation, which then leads me to the aspect of staging it, because this plan, as you advertised on the webpage, is a 20 to 30 year plan. And in business, yeah, it's good to have a master plan, and you go and you say, okay, this is where we want to be. How can I afford that? And that's what we do in business. It's like, yeah, I'd love to throw 19 and just be done with it. But my job when I worked in the chemical industry was I had to figure out how to make it work for the business. And I think that's what the township board of supervisors needs to do, is figure out a way. We need to move that way. I don't think anybody's going to argue that hard. We just have to find a good way to do it. The 2448 seems to make a little bit more reason, because when I rationalize 24 on, 72 off, 8 of those hours are probably going to be sleeping unless you get a call in the middle of the night. So, I mean, that's just the reality of it. But I've seen in the chemical industry where you have shifts where people are working 12 hours. They work 4 on, 4 off, 4 on, and then you can get away with 3 groups instead of having to have 4 groups, because the third group is a floater that covers vacations, sick time. There's other ways to do it. I think the township should look outside the box. I know it's conventional for the fire department, but that's how society has moved. We've got social media that takes us different directions. We get news, we get all types of cooking recipes. We have to expand our view of how can we make this work. and get it to where it is beneficial, not only for the township, but for the residents that can afford it and move us there. So if you can put that information, because I think the other part of that, you mentioned, I think it's Upper Providence and I forget Northampton that have done it. What were their increases like? I mean, if they're looking at the same type of increases we have, okay, that gives people perspective because it is a big number. It's a shock to people, but that's how you educate people and build a case for what you want to do. I think that goes a long way in building credibility. People see the vision. There's also the issue around, okay, you've got a feasibility study. So it's like, wait a minute, okay, why are they going to do a feasibility study if we don't need to do anything? But then in listening to the township meeting minutes, you talk also about in 27, we might want to put a budget in to build a firehouse or another station. I'm like, wait a minute, you told me I didn't need to do anything. And now all of a sudden you're going to potentially have a $5 or $10 million building. Get it all out on the table. Present your master plan, and you've done part of it. It's just, are there any more things that are coming? If there is a building, great. It's like, let's understand that. Maybe it doesn't need to happen now, but 5 years, you're either going to renovate the fire stations or, yeah, the township's going to grow. I'm not sure how much remaining area that you can build in the township, but does that mean a third station somewhere further out? I guess what, west?
There'll never be a third station.
Okay.
If you want to, I mean, in the report I prepared for the board in November, I said that they should consider one new station and not have two stations,
Okay.
and more of a public safety campus.
Okay.
But I'm going under that we're not getting a new building. I was asked to do a feasibility study just to see if there was anything we could do to the building to make it more efficient for the people.
But and that's good to know. But in listening, there was talk of doing the feasibility in 26 to potentially put it in the budget for 27. That's like, wait a minute, now you're adding the issue. So that needs to kind of be resolved because that's hanging over people's heads. And when they look at it, it's like, this is one part. Is there another part, and when's it going to drop? If it's 10 years down the road, okay, yeah, you can't foresee 10 years down the road.
Right.
So we have no bare land, as you know, in the township. There's only a couple parcels left that are.
Yeah, I looked at the map, but I couldn't really
Like
tell.
we have bare land that's parks. We have bare land that's dedicated open space. I said to Bill, what would a feasibility study even cost to tell us, like, is our building, that's a really old building, and is it the safest it should be? Like where the kitchen is versus where this is. So we said, let's call some firms who are experienced with fire departments, fire stations, and say to them, what would it cost to do a study? And then our thought was, if in 2026 the board agreed, yeah, let's just do the study and see what we're looking at. Then if it was something as simple as, well, we need to bump out one side and maybe it was manageable, maybe we could get a grant, we would look at it in 27. If it's something that they're saying really the best ideal thing would be to do what Bill said, sell those two off, take all the, the assets you can from them and build one single station. But where would we do that?
Right.
If we were in Western Montgomery County, up past Limerick, it wouldn't be a problem. Most campuses that are newer have, an EMS building, a police department building, an admin building, the fire stations in the back, the public works garage is in the back corner. We know we have what we have. If you knew how old this building was, you wouldn't know it walking in, seeing the condition it's kept in, because we know this is what we have. This is our building. We're not getting a new township building. We're not getting, the rec center is our newest building, and that's already 10 years old. So
yeah, no,
but we understand what you're saying. We don't want people to get the impression that like the other shoe's going to drop and then we're going to hit them with another, tax increase and say, well, just deal with it.
You mentioned the land availability. Yeah, you're having to take existing buildings. There's industrial buildings that, yeah, you could probably buy one, knock it down and put something up there if you needed to. So that's why just understanding that vision, it doesn't, just because there's not available land, no one probably ever envisioned that they were going to build townhomes on top of the Wawa or the Luxor apartments on Stump Road. So the question out there to think about is where does the township think we're going to grow population wise? Are we going to see a 20% population growth over the next 20 years? And how does that come into play with what you're
I
looking
think
at?
the only way we would see any kind of population increase
Mhm.
would be if the mall was redeveloped.
Okay.
That's the only large parcel left. And I looked because somebody had asked me, well, why do the taxes need to go up? You know, the township's growing, but it's really not. I looked back the last 5 years. We have had properties that have been reassessed
Mhm.
and not to our benefit. So we've had a reduction in our total value of 2% one year, 0.5% another. It went up 0.5% another year. The Luxor apartments, you know, just got reassessed because now there's a building on what was bare land. So, but we're not like, you know, King of Prussia.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, if I had the King of Prussia Mall,
Yeah.
if I had the town center where Wegmans is and all those high rises, and I had the Valley Forge Casino, we'd be talking. Their value of their township is twice what our value is.
Okay.
You know, and so like it's really, you know, there's so many things we wish we could do, but this our 11 square miles, anybody who drives around here and see there's houses everywhere. There's developments that I don't think I've even gotten into yet in the 5 years I've been here, just because there's just so much, you know. But no, we talked the industrial buildings. When Alan Knappen was alive, he told us that he was 100% occupied. You know, we are always looking. I get calls from people saying, hey, I'm looking for a building because I want to do indoor batting cages, or where can we put indoor pickleball courts? You know, we need more pickleball courts. We are always, you know, but a lot of times we don't know until something gets a for sale sign up on it. And then we're like, oh, that parcel's for sale now. But we only have, I think, maybe 2 properties left that have some acreage with them, and they're private residences.
Okay.
So
Yeah, the last thing I'll leave you with is you talked about the, I guess I'll call it mutual aid, where we support each other in the community of the fire department. Think about a short-term, long-term, and longer-term plan. Is how can we leverage everybody else working together, saying, yeah, they're in the same boat. Is there something we can do that gets us 3 or 5 years before we have to really do a big hire? So thinking outside the box, just some other thoughts.
Yeah, mutual aid is something I wish we could figure something out with. I mean, you know, there are departments in the Commonwealth that are splitting crews,
Mhm.
where they half are from Manheim and half are from another town or things of that nature.
So.
You know, we call for a lot more mutual aid to come into Montgomery Township than we ever provide out. So on like one of our calls, if we get dispatched for a house fire in Montgomery Township, you're getting at minimum 5 mutual aid fire pieces.
To get to that 15 that you talked
Yes.
about.
Yeah. So
I wondered how you,
yeah.
and I assumed that was what it was. So,
Mhm.
all
Which
right.
and that's just the game, you know. That's just what you do. And we provide the same output. We're a lot busier than our surrounding companies, so we ask for a lot more from them than they ask for us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the
Oh
time.
no, thank you.
I'm Martha Hines, and the fire service is near and dear to our family. My husband, Bernie, and Bobby Glorioso, and a handful of very dedicated volunteers started the Montgomery Township Fire Department when they separated from Calmer. I remember when it was borrowed gear, borrowed trucks, and making chili at night and taking it up during during the storms just to sit it out. I absolutely believe, and I wish Bernie could be here tonight. He is on a train. I keep hoping he walks in the door from Washington, so I'm kind of speaking in his stead. I have 2 questions. First is I absolutely do agree that we do need paid department. My concern is more of looking long term, and I having watched the videos and that I do believe that we need to have some consultants or have an outside party, a third party, just look at what's going to happen down the road and best practices for other communities, and to see how I think it's great that the information that Carolyn's put forward and Bill's plan is amazing for the next year, but I don't see a plan or information moving out through a number of years. And again, mutual aid, when it comes down to the number of the fire companies that are Gwinnett, North Penn, all are volunteer. They're going to be in the same boat as we are at some point. And at some point, sooner or later, there's going to have to be some kind of a mutual regional type of fire service. And what I think is we're being short-sighted right now. And this is a huge investment, and to do it on a one-year basis, to me, at least from what I have seen, is just a little premature. But knowing that I do believe we need to go to a combination paid department. My other comment is that in looking at the graph, where you had on Carolina at the website, where you can see the streets and what your tax increase would be. That tax increase is just for the fire service. It does not include anything else that might come through the township in terms of increases for the following fiscal year. Correct?
That's correct. We've been very fortunate that in the last few years, our operational budgets have been, we've had surpluses or we've broke even. The tax increase that we did have to do when I got here, the board was new, I was new. One of the first things we discovered was there was no 5-year capital plan. We had no money to pay for the capital that was needed, that had been neglected. And then what was more disconcerting was we built a rec center and we never put a revenue stream in to cover the debt on it, because the presentation that had been made 2017, or I guess it was even before that, was that it would pay for itself. And that wasn't the case. It can pay for its own operations, but it can't cover the debt associated with that building. So we borrowed money, we refinanced the debt at a much lower rate. When we did the capital plan, we were able to borrow money at 1.76%, which was unheard of, but we were able to lock in a rate. Our operations are very lean, and we're not expanding in any way. So I'm not like opening a new division, so we're expecting no tax increase to cover our operations, except for the fire that's being proposed. But I can't say in 5 years what'll happen. But I also know the school district every year raises them, no matter whether it's North Penn, Penn Ridge, Souderton, and they don't tell us, they just raise them and we just pay for it. Here, we're trying to at least be, as transparent to residents as possible, and guaranteeing them is going solely towards fire services. It's not going to be split up and go into some line item that, is.
No, totally. And if anything, the issue with the rec center almost speaks to me in terms of having a 5-year plan for the fire department and knowing what that 5-year plan is, so that we can be prepared down the road.
I understand your whole point about regionalization, and I wish that I could tell you what a 5-year plan with regionalization looks like, but that's above me. That's a political.
And that's my whole point, is that I think that we need to take the time to, and having watched the Monday night meeting, is to look into having some sort of outside consultant who is specializing in fire services, be outside the box, be a non-committed, someone who doesn't have a interest in this, and is an impartial.
I understand. I just, I don't want to wait. And I'm not saying this to be callous or anything. I'm just saying I don't know if regionalization is ever going to happen in where we live. I would love for it to be talked about, but I don't know if the towns that surround us, like a North Penn Fire Company that encompasses the 8 fire departments. I mean, that's a lot of people that would have to give up their. I mean, in the county, you're looking at there's almost 90 fire departments in Montgomery County. So, I mean, you're looking at 90 different fire chiefs, 90 different sandboxes.
But even in terms of the buildings and things like that,
I wish it would make things so much more efficient.
In Montgomery Township, I just really feel that we need more information, more of a long-term plan for the township, as opposed to a 1-year. This is what we want to do next year. So that's.
I get it. Thank you.
I mean, my question is, this is my 3rd meeting, and I haven't heard any money at all. What is our current yearly fire budget now? Do we know?
Yeah,
So
it's about
whatever that is,
it's
what is
about
it?
1 million.
Okay, 1 million. So now we're going to triple the fire department. So now it's going to 3 million.
We go 4.
That I think you need to present to the public.
Yeah, I mean,
When you gave the numbers of how many people have been notified, you gave me numbers, and I think that was less than 2,600 people. That's less than 1% in our township.
Well,
Correct.
it's not that they've been notified, it's that they've
No, I'm just saying,
chosen
you gave the
to.
numbers, how many people looked at the website. That's
well,
1,000.
the fire
200,
department's
300.
budget is on the website.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, this is my third meeting, and I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's a great
What our yearly budget is, and then we're going to triple it.
it's a
So-
great question because and 1 million. I mean, most of that is salaries, right?
Yeah, and benefits.
Right, salaries and benefits.
Equipment.
Well, see that's where the fire department it gets a little crazy. We really have 3 budgets. We really manage 3 budgets.
Right.
We have the township budget, which is the overall Department of Fire Services. That's about $1 million.
Right.
Then we have the Relief Association, which we get about $220,000 from the state every year from the foreign fire tax. Currently, the Relief Association has about $600,000. The Relief Association cannot be used to support career fire at all. It's only for the volunteers, but it can help with shared items. So like rescue tools or hose or things of that nature.
Both use
Right.
the volunteers.
So
That's another thing. Like
we,
the volunteers kind of got me a little upset that they don't get nothing to do what they do.
well, I mean, that's true. We have tried.
Where I'm going with this is you're telling me now we're spending $1 million. Let's just say $1 million.
Okay.
And then we're going to 3. So that means I have $2
4.
million in my budget for next year.
Right.
I can't build a volunteer department and get kids from high school, North Penn, and give them $3,000 to go through training to volunteer.
So,
I can't give them a $300 stipend. I can't take care of her and give her 30 grand a year for everything she does. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense. The money's there. It's just not, it's going to go to the pay guy.
well, I gotta unpack what you said because you said a lot of things there.
Right.
And there's a lot of different things. Number one, out of any fire company in this area, we probably give our volunteers the most. We give them a $500 stipend. We pay them.
You say the most. I want money.
Okay, so we give them a $500 stipend.
I think he said he works 50 hours a week. I said, how much do you get? He said, what do you?
Right. Well, there's a ruling. It's called the Emmaus ruling.
Okay.
We cannot pay volunteers as employees, or they will be considered employees, and then we
call it whatever you want. Bonus.
you
That
can't
we
do
can't,
it.
You can't pay them for training.
We can pay them up to a certain amount, which we already do.
And who makes those decisions on what the amount is fair?
There's a court decision. It was Emmaus Borough. So Emmaus Borough paid their volunteers and they called it stipend. They called it a whole host of things.
Oh, yeah.
The court ruled because the union filed a grievance that they were in fact,
The union.
if they're paying them that way, then they are considered covered by the collective bargaining agreement.
How about a tax on the township residents that just goes to the volunteer association? Can we do that?
We have been throwing money at the volunteer problem for 20 years, and we haven't got more volunteers.
It's hard for me to believe because I've been in the township 20 years.
Have you ever volunteered?
Huh?
What?
No, but
what-
you know what? In 20 years, not one person has knocked on my door. I don't remember one letter from anybody saying volunteers are desperate.
Well,
We're
that's-
desperate. I would have got my son's ass out the door if you guys became.
I mean, we have put signs up every spring and
Dude,
fall
I'm
for.
just telling you, 20 years I've never known. I told him today. I said, this has been going on for years, and I find out like it's desperate situation. Who communicates that?
We communicate it all the time.
To who?
Whoever's listening.
Well, that's what I mean. Who's listening?
I
Are
don't
you
know.
putting it on the webpage? Are you
Yes.
putting it on Facebook?
Yes.
I'm not on any of that. So how are you getting to me?
Well, we put out lawn signs every spring and fall.
And when you had the,
How about the
Montgomery,
annual
the Wall of Fame, why didn't you have a booth there?
The
The Wall of Fame there, the presentation went there. You should have had a recruiting desk there.
wall that heals.
The Wall of Heels.
That wasn't appropriate.
Dude, after I went to that, I would have went through that brick wall.
We were,
If you tell me you don't
we
get
were,
kids there and you talk
sir,
to them,
sir,
they would go through the
we
wall.
were restricted by what we could have there.
You could
by
have had
the-
it in the parking lot, couldn't you?
We were
Well,
really.
I've never seen it in 20 years. Never seen any recruiting. I mean,
Okay.
I'll volunteer to get Coach Monero at the baseball team at North Penn,
I know, Coach.
Coach
Monero.
Beck, and we will go up there and talk to them. If we
Okay.
can't get 4 or 5 students to do that, I'd be surprised.
And it's going to take me. Well, they got to be 18 to be
Right.
interior firefighters. It's going to take me a year to get them the training. but then we'll be ready to go. Rachel's here. She handles all of our recruitment and retention.
I mean, I think if she had money, she'd be able to do a better job.
They have money.
Well, there's going to be an interest, but I think the
Come on,
money is
Rachel,
people.
come to the mic.
Yeah. I mean, I felt bad when she spoke that she got nothing, no money. I sat there saying,
Well,
I wouldn't give
volunteer.
money on my own body.
It's volunteer.
Rachel, microphone, please, because it's being recorded.
I'll listen.
The township and the department does an incredible job trying to take care of us. We get paid to take training. We get paid if we come out to a certain amount of calls. We get paid for our stipend shifts. We have t-shirts. We have a committee where we sit there month after month trying to figure out how we can keep people happy and get new people. No amount of spaghetti dinner nights, family fun nights.
You can't.
Cash is not enough. You know what cash doesn't do? Cash doesn't tuck my children into bed, which I'm not doing right now to be here. Cash does not make my children not go, Mommy, are you putting me to bed tonight?
Sir, let her finish, please.
There's not enough people. We do not have the people, and the people we have, we are burnt out every month. You don't know.
I was here when you said you weren't. I felt so guilty saying, why can't we take care of these
Because
people?
it's not an issue of just throwing money at us.
No, what I'm saying is getting more people so you can be home. Give me $300 to go get somebody to help you take your shift so you can go home.
But what you're not understanding, sir, is that it's not just a matter of money. It is the time. The 220 hours. I talk to people who are interested in joining the department. Someone says, hey, what's involved with this? I sit there on my own time talking to people and just going through, hey, here's what training looks like. Here's our responsibilities. Very, very few people are willing to take that step because the 220 hours, that is just the beginning. That's just the beginning.
And what do you get there to do that? Just a certificate?
We are nationally pro board certified, which is a fantastic certificate to have. It takes us far. It is. But as far as coming out and handling the calls, there's just not enough people. And money isn't the thing. People they don't have it in them to set aside their family, set aside their Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas, birthday parties. Yeah, my husband and our monthly calendar is a battle plan of who's got the kids. And thankfully my kids are young, so they're not worried about it right now. But soon when they get to school and they have sports, my time's going to be limited. And I'm on my third stipend night tonight this week. I have a fourth one scheduled. Next month, we have holes all over the place. Very routinely, I'm on 4 or 5 nights a week because we don't have the people. It's not just a matter of money. It's not just a matter of give the volunteers money. We don't have enough people. And to get new people, if you walked in 20 people tomorrow, we still wouldn't have enough because of the time that it takes to train people to an acceptable level where they can safely and effectively operate on a fire ground.
It's almost like it's an impossible situation.
It is an impossible situation. This isn't the only organization that I volunteer with. This is not the only organization that I volunteer with. Volunteerism is down throughout the entire country. So I understand people may feel that this is being sprung upon them, but
It is. That's what I feel. I mean, in 20 years, I didn't know any of this until a month ago.
why not?
Out of the blue, like the volunteers department is going down to.
I think-
The house is going on fire and we won't be saved for 12 minutes. Like
I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But we have tried everything. We do. At every community event, we have booths, we have flyers, we send our mailers out every year to everyone in the community, trying to raise funds, trying to say, you cannot tell me that you have not seen a single volunteer.
I swear to God, I haven't. That's
We
why I'm so upset.
have
Rachel,
tried everything.
Rachel, I think the other point to make is, and we saw this during COVID, is you're asking us to get volunteers, in an activity where you could die. You're asking us to get volunteers in an activity where the World Health Organization just came out and said, if you're a firefighter, you're going to get cancer. You're asking us to get volunteers to go into a burning building and potentially be killed. And we saw it during COVID. People didn't want to come out because they were afraid that they were going to bring COVID home and kill somebody in their family because of their volunteer activity. So I have been a volunteer since 1996. I love it. There is nothing better than crawling down that hallway and putting out the fire. It's a little crazy. It's a little crazy, right? But I talked about my son earlier. I hope he never has to do that. I hope he doesn't even like doing that because I don't want anything bad to happen to my son. And now we're asking people to volunteer to do that. It's a crazy ask. It's a crazy ask. And I will tell you that I feel like I should go and have you ever donated to the fire company? Okay. So on the back of the donation is our come join the fire department. We do the mailer every year. We go to all the schools. Awesome. Let's do it. Okay.
Is there anyone else? I see it's 20 after 8. I want to be conscious of everybody's time.
You were talking about the numbers of views that people looked at these meetings.
Thankfully.
That's a pretty small percentage of the township population. I mean, that's how I found out about it a number of weeks ago. But I talked to people in my neighborhood. Now, not a lot of them, but a couple of neighbors. One had never heard of this going on at all. The other said, well, I heard something about a fire department expansion. I thought that just meant a new firehouse. And when I told them the number that you put in that website of the average increase in our development, their jaws dropped. Don't you think if this isn't going to be on a referendum, there should at least be a mailer going out so that everybody in the township knows about it ahead of time and can talk or contact the supervisors and let their feelings really be known? Because I think money is an issue in this thing to a lot of people.
I mean, we put on all the billboards. We throw out our digital signboards are out. It's been talked about at the Board of Supervisors meeting since last November. Sure, we can explore
it until 6 weeks ago, maybe. I don't come to the supervisor meetings. I think this meeting's great. I don't go to Facebook. I don't have an account.
Well, one of the other things we struggle with is the media doesn't cover us anymore. So when I started in local government, there was a reporter sitting in the back of the room for every single township meeting and then would go and file a story about one of the items on the agenda. They don't even call me now and say, hey, I see you've got this on the agenda. Can you tell me a little bit about it? So we're at a loss there. People don't get newspapers anymore. We've mailed things to homes and have still had people in the past for different things say, I didn't know about that. I had no idea. We've sent postcards that are this big. Our senior committee, wanted to do a mailer and, there's a cost to it. It's a color, we don't want it to blend in with junk mail. So we have to make it attractive so it pops out. But how many people get, the window ones and this, that, and if we're tucked in there, it gets tossed in a recycle bin.
Yeah.
We're really, we have tried everything. Even when we hosted the Wall That Heals, we were one of 31 areas in the country where it was going to be. And we blasted it out everywhere. And still there were people who said, I didn't know about it. Conversely, there were people who came here from Collegeville and said, I'm so thrilled at the wall that you brought it here. And I said, well, 2 years ago, it was 5 minutes from you in Upper Providence. They had no idea. So we're always trying to find ways to get creative, to get the word out. Sometimes it's word of mouth. Facebook is wonderful. I'm not on Facebook, but Facebook is wonderful in that somebody in this room will see it and then tell somebody else. Not everybody's on it. It's a lot of times it's word of mouth, but we've used our digital signs that are outside our building, Battalion 2, the rec center, And you're right, if it said fire expansion, maybe we need to put staffing expansion, but we're only limited with how many.
And still there are people who don't know about it.
Yeah.
Has any consideration been given to a referendum?
No.
Why is that?
Because the Board of Supervisors is elected by the residents and they have to make decisions on the basis
When
of.
they were elected, nobody knew this was an issue.
No, and they didn't either. Nobody knew. I mean, we knew, I've known for years, decades really, that the numbers are doing, how many were there in the 70s in the Commonwealth?
360,000,
And now there's
37,000.
in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, but I mean, there's always issues with that because people volunteer at multiple agencies, so they might be counted more than once.
So we saw it, dropping, and it was on every municipal manager has heard this multiple times. The problem is what we're hearing now is that we have reached a critical point here. We might have 50 volunteer firefighters who are on the books, but there is a small core group that are volunteering, that are showing up. And when you said, 1% looked at the website, well, it's a fraction of that who are volunteer firefighters. And that's how it got to this point. We have 26,000 residents and we don't even have 10% of them being a volunteer firefighter. So this is where, and Chief was asked, and the board did ask us to look into, getting some quotes to do a study to see about our staffing. And so that's what I'm also in the middle of doing right now.
But my concern is that they're going to make some sort of decision and they're not going to know the feeling of the majority of the people in the township.
That's the board's job, is to know the feelings.
I think that elected officials have to make decisions every day and they don't necessarily have the temperature of everybody in their community. I mean, they do the best they can. They run a very tight ship. They're very stable here. All the amenities that are here are because they listen to residents. Residents said, we want a dog park. Now we have a dog park. When we built the rec center, we had no idea that there was going to be Planet Fitness for $10 a month. We had no idea that Peloton was going to become a thing during the pandemic, where you could get exercise equipment in your home and put your phone up and be trained by trainers. We'll relay it to the board. All these comments will be relayed. I'm sure the ones who aren't here will watch the video and of the meeting, and the ones who are here are hearing it now in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? One quick question. I believe you said earlier, Caroline, that the union was agreed to negotiate a 24/72 schedule, but they weren't open to talking about 24/48. Doesn't that negate the chance of phasing it over 3 years and almost force you to do it one time?
I won't say it negates it. I would say it makes it more challenging, because if I push to open it for 24/48, they're going to want something significant in return. And I'm not sure we're in a position, yes, on top of what we're proposing.
And then when you take a phase approach, which, if that's the decision, it's a decision, then we're opening the contract multiple times. Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh.
So my question, so it's not for Bill and Carolyn, just to really stand up here so as a member of the fire department. I'm the deputy chief of the fire department, and I've been a member here since 2005. Bill said he's been a member here since 2006, and I've been in the volunteer fire service since 1998. Over time, just seeing the numbers decline, as several of the volunteers have said, it is getting tougher and tougher. Just to let everyone here know, I mean, it is taking a lot more time to get volunteers, get them trained, having them come out, sacrifice. They are giving up a lot of time with their families to get people trained. 200 hours to take the basic firefighter 1 course. In my time as being a firefighter, volunteer firefighter, it's gonna be over 1,000, 2,000 hours of experience, of training, and yeah, some people will be able to get that training, but they won't they need to be able to constantly train. And as Bill said, people, the younger members that are joining, they do go off to college. Eventually, they do move away, and we're unable to retain those members to buy a house in the township, and it also makes it harder. Being a volunteer, I am. I also want to make sure that the township can be covered in case there is that emergency. I want to make sure. So I live in the township. I want to make sure that a fire truck can get to my house, get to my neighbor's house in a timely fashion to put the fire out. If I'm not home, if I'm at work, I'm on vacation, I'm away with my family. If there's an incident, I still want to make sure that my house, my property, my neighbors are also being protected. So I am in full support of this.
So my name's Jim Egbert, Reverend Jim Egbert. Not too long ago, I was a chaplain at Grandview Hospital. Before that, I was a chaplain and administered at the Hospital, University of Pennsylvania. I've seen and ministered to many families whose loved ones have been burned up in a fire. I took the time to take my stopwatch out, my phone app, and I started and I stopped it at the 4-minute mark. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm standing outside of my house. It's on fire. And I'm waiting for the fire truck. And then I let it run another 6 minutes. And I stood there. And the chief said, fire spread double in size every 2 minutes, every 30 seconds rather. So let's take my stove caught on fire. 30 seconds later, it's the size of 2 stoves. 30 seconds later, it's the size of 4 jobs. They can't stop their jobs in their lives to volunteer as much as they can. Every Monday night, we train. And we don't, as a fire police officer, I don't train nearly as hard as the firefighter do. I saw them last Monday night out there attacking Battalion 2 with hoses and practicing, and then hoses away. And 2 hours later, it's 8:30, 9:30 at night, and they're going home. I get emails from Deputy Chief Vinay about training opportunities all the time. Always. This department tries to train. So my point is I support this. It's unfortunate that our taxes have to go up, but I've seen people burned up in fires. It's not pretty. It needs to be done. It's a shame that we can't get volunteers, but that's the way the world is. I'm proud to be a volunteer in the department here. I'm proud to be a resident. I'm proud to have ministered to people that have burned up in fires down in Philadelphia where I worked. I just think that it's something that needs to be done, and it's money well spent, even though it's a lot of money. And I'm willing to increase my taxes if I'm volunteers, fixed income kind of a salary situation. So thanks so much. I appreciate you listening.
Good evening, Kelly Elizardo. I live in Montgomery Crossing, and I've been here for 25 years, as my husband already said. Thank you for everything that you do. I don't disagree. We need to expand the number of career firefighters. Have we done any sort of alternate scenario with the 2448 plan? And what would that budget implication be?
I did lay out an alternate scenario for the 2448, and that was posted on the website today, I think. So all of those numbers are on the website.
Okay, but it was posted today.
It was posted today. Yep.
Okay. Do you recall off the top of your head what the difference was?
No, I didn't even. I know it was posted today, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
So the home that I talked about on Dogwood Drive, under the original proposal, the tax bill would be $214. Under the phased approach, it would be $168.
Okay. And that included all the required overtime that you would have on the 2448? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that graph was put up today. I'm just going to the website now.
Okay, thank you. I guess the research that I've done is the 2448 is a more common schedule for firefighters.
Correct.
And it sounds like the 2472 is kind of the the be all end all schedule, the ultimate, we're going for the Cadillac of schedules.
I would say it's the Cadillac of schedules for firefighter mental health and emotional well-being. I would say to you that people who work 24/48 schedule feel like they're always working and they never get a break. And one of the, and I would say to you that if you're following the research, which sounds like you are, that you're seeing that most departments like our size are moving to 24/72s because it should better for employee recruitment and retention.
You mentioned Horsham, obviously a nearby township. Are they 24/48 or 24/72?
I'm not sure, but Horsham's a little different model because they're EMS first, so they staff ambulances and fire trucks. So if the medic's out on a call, then they have their combination. They're just an EMS based agency.
Does that mean their schedule differs somehow?
I don't know how their schedules.
Okay.
Yeah, I
It
don't
would
know.
be interesting to kind of get that benchmark of how the other local fire departments.
I mean, Norristown's doing 24/48s. Northampton's doing 24/72s. So they're traditional fire companies. They don't have a medic in their quarters, so they're the two agencies. 24/72s.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you.
Anyone else? All right. I want to thank you for your time. And Rich, thank you for being here and recording this for us and live streaming it.
Thank you.